المؤمنين وألزمهم كلمة التقوى وكانوا أحق بها وأهلها وكان الله بكل شيء عليما. لقد صدق الله رسوله الرؤيا بالحق لتدخلن المسجد الحرام إن شاء الله آمنين محلقين رؤوسكم ومقصرين لا تخافون فعلم ما لم تعلموا فجعل من دون ذلك فتحا قريبا. هو الذي أرسل رسوله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله وكفى بالله شهيدا. محمد رسول الله والذين معه أشداء على الكفار رحماء بينهم تراهم ركعا سجدا يبتغون فضلا من الله ورضوانا سيماهم في وجوههم من أثر السجود ذلك مثلهم في التوراة ومثلهم في الإنجيل كزرع أخرج شطأه فآزره فاستغلظ فاستوى على سوقه يعجب الزراع ليغيظ بهم الكفار. وعد الله الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات منهم مغفرة وأجرا عظيما. صدق الله العلي العظيم.
اللهم صل على محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد.
محمد وعلى محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. कासन तेरी कुर्बानी पे रब की रज़ा होती रही। कासन तेरी कुर्बानी पे रब की रज़ा होती रही। चेहरे की लड़ियां चूम कर चेहरे की लड़ियां चूम कर खाके शिफा रोती रही। कासिम तेरी कुर्बानी पे रब की रज़ा रोती रही। टुकड़े हुआ लाशा तेरा कासिम यतीमे मुज्तबा। टुकड़े हुआ लाशा तेरा कासिम यतीमे मुज्तबा। मातम किया सादात ने करबो बला रोती रही। قاسم تیری قربانی پہ رب کی رضا روتی رہی، رو رو کے کرتی تھی فغاں مارا گیا قاسم جوان، رو رو کے کرتی تھی فغاں مارا گیا قاسم جوان، کرب و بلا کے دشت میں ماں کی صدا روتی رہی، قاسم تیری قربانی پہ رب کی رضا روتی رہی، گھوڑے سے جب قاسم گرے تقسیم جب لاشا ہوا، گھوڑے سے جب قاسم گرے تقسیم جب لاشا ہوا، خیمے میں تھا ماتم بپا آلے ابا روتی رہی، قاسم تیری قربانی پہ رب کی رضا روتی رہی، مادر کے دل میں آس تھی دیکھوں گی قاسم کی خوشی، مادر کے دل میں آس تھی دیکھوں گی قاسم کی خوشی، گٹھڑی میں لاشا دیکھ کر ماں کی دعا روتی رہی، قاسم تیری قربانی پہ رب کی رضا روتی رہی، لرزی زمین کانپا فلک قاسم ہوئے پامال جب، جواد سر کو پیٹ کر رن میں قضا روتی رہی، قاسم تیری قربانی پہ رب کی رضا روتی رہی، اور محمد علیہ محمد صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم
ماشاءاللہ. محمد وعلى محمد صلوات اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. You're going to show up on that. Assalamu alaikum. I think, yeah. اللهم صل. I think. محمد وعلى محمد. شہادت کا جو پروگرام ہے وہ امام حسن کی شہادت کا بھی ہے اور رسول خدا کی شہادت بھی ہے، تو میں نے ڈیوائڈ اس کو اس طرح کیے ہیں کہ سورس امام حسن کی شہادت کے حوالے سے اور مرثیہ جناب رسول خدا کی شہادت کے حوالے سے ضرور پڑھے گا محمد علیہ محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. صلح صلح وطن ایک کار زار ہے صلح حسن بھی اصل میں ایک کارزار ہے مظلومیت کی جیت ہے ظلم کی ہار ہے لفظوں کا اہل شام پر بھرپور وار ہے نو کے قدم میں تیغ دو کر کی دھار ہے وہ کاٹ ہے جو تابد یادگار ہے وہ کاٹ ہے جو ابد یادگار ہے لفظوں سے جو ڈھلی ہے یہ وہ صلح حسن بھی اصل میں درود پڑھیے محمد
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
فاتحہ.
I think that's it.
Yeah, 8 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah.
درود پڑھیے محمد بیمار جب کہ احمد مختار ہو گئے دشمن زیادہ در پائے آزار ہو گئے زہرے سے کم سے موت کے آثار ہو گئے صدمے اٹھا کے جینے سے بیزار ہو گئے کھلتا جہاں سے لائے گئے دابر کا کوچ ہے افسوس سوئے خلد پیمبر کا کوچ ہے شفقت سے فاطمہ کو بلایا رسول نے سمجھا کے اپنے پاس بٹھایا رسول نے جب دامن بطول کو پایا رسول نے بستر کے بدلے اس کو بچھایا رسول نے سر رکھ کے اپنے زانوے دختر پہ سو گئے راوی کا ہے خیال کہ بے ہوش ہو گئے ہوش آیا تو بلایا حسن اور حسین کو لپٹایا اپنے سینے سے ہر نور عین کو نانا کے غم میں کھویا نوازوں نے چین کو رو رو کے یہ سنایا شاہ مشرقین کو افسوس آج دادے جدائی دکھاؤگے سنتے ہیں ہم یہ سب سے ہمیں چھوڑ جاؤ گے سر پیٹ پیٹ رونے لگی ہائے فاطمہ بولی کہ کس طرح نہ علم کھائے فاطمہ جو حال دل ہے کس سے وہ دہرائے فاطمہ افسوس اپنے باپ سے چھٹ جائے فاطمہ اس غم سے آس ٹوٹ گئی دل ملول کی آفات نے مبتلا ہوئی بیٹی رسول کی رو رو حسن حسین یہ کہتے تھے بار بار اب کون زانوں پر بٹھا کر کرے گا پیار نانا گلے لگاؤ نواسے ہے بے قرار رونے جنہیں نہ دیتے تھے اب ہیں وہ اشک بار کیا کیا غم و ملال نہ گھر دل میں کر گئے جو ناز اٹھانے والے ہمارے تھے مر گئے رونے سے اہل بیت کے تھاش آشکار دل با محمدہ کی صدا سے ہوئے فگار گھر میں تو سب عزیز پیمبر تھے اشک بار دروازے پہ کھڑے ہوئے روتے تھے جان سار کر سینے بھرے تھے رنج سے ماتم کو ہاتھ تھے جبریل اشک بار فرشتوں کے ساتھ تھے محشر بپا کیا جو صغیرو کبیر نے سمجھایا ضبط کر کے جناب غسل شاہ امم کی وزیر نے نہلایا ان کو عاشق رب قدیر نے گوہال غم سے غیر تھا زوج بطول کا کفنا کے خود جنازہ اٹھایا رسول کا کفنا کے خود جنازہ اٹھایا رسول کا بیمار جب کہ احمد مولا کوئی غم دے آپ کو سوائے کرنے حسین کے صلی اللہ علیہ محمد و آل محمد
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
دور پڑے گا محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد.
ضرور پڑے گا محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد.
سلام آپ کو کتنی دیر میں مولانا کا انتظار کر رہے ہیں. خیال خالق اکبر کا ہم خیال حسین یہ اشعار کو ملاحظہ کیجیے گا. خیال خالق اکبر کا ہم خیال حسین جسے زوال نہیں ہے وہ لازوال حسین بشر کے روپ میں اللہ کی مثال حسین دل رسول کی دھڑکن علی کا لال حسین حسین جیسے کسی کے بھی والدین نہیں بہت حسین ہے یوسف مگر حسین نہیں بہت حسین ہے یوسف مگر حسین نہیں سمندروں نے کیا جس کی تشنگی کو سلام نماز کرتی رہی جس کی بندگی کو سلام کیا ہے موت نے خود جس کی زندگی کو سلام زمانہ کرتا ہے اب تک اسی گری کو سلام حیات موت کے ساحل کو بانٹ دیتا ہے حسین دیکھ کو شہرگ سے کاٹ دیتا ہے حسین حسین دیکھ کو شہرگ سے کاٹ دیتا ہے یہ کائنات ریاست رئیس ہے شبیر دبیر عشق کا دبیر عشق خدا کا انیس ہے شبیر نفس نفس کی صدا ہے نفیس ہے شبیر قسم حبیب کی قسمت نبیس ہے شبیر خدا کے لہجے میں اکثر کلام کرتا ہے حسین حر کو علیہ السلام کہتا ہے حسین حر کو علیہ السلام کہتا ہے حسین صبر ہے ایثار ہے محبت ہے حسین عشق کے مضمون کی عبارت ہے حسین رحمت للعالمین کے رحمت ہے حسین کوئی فسانہ نہیں حقیقت ہے
जहां में अब भी शाहे मशरक़ैन बाकी है, यजीद मिट गया नाम हुसैन बाकी है, यजीद मिट गया नाम हुसैन बाकी है। दुरूद पढ़िएगा मोहम्मद चलो मुझे नजर नहीं आ रहा, मैं इसलिए तो पूछ रहा हूँ। रेडी मौलाना, if you are ready, mashallah, you can start. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. I don't see it.
He said he's waiting.
I don't see him.
I know, that's why I just told him. He said, do you have to invite him?
Oh, there he is.
Assalamu alaikum, Maulana. Can you hear me?
Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Yes, I can hear you. Can you
Okay,
hear me?
mashallah. Yes. So, Maulana, you are on Zoom with me, but everyone in the center is looking at you through YouTube. So there is a little delay.
Okay, that's fine. Inshallah.
So, inshallah, when you start, they'll start seeing you.
Okay, inshallah. Just let me know whenever when I should start.
You're ready, mashallah.
Inshallah. Yes, I'm ready.
Turn on the volume.
Is everything set? Can you see me clear? Everything
Yes,
is...
I can see you clearly, mashallah.
Okay, good. Inshallah.
But everyone in the center is looking at you through YouTube. So there is a little delay. So is a 30-second delay, Maulana?
Okay.
So I am with you outside, and everyone inside the center is looking at you through the YouTube. So when you start, they are going to see you. So you can, mashallah, whenever you're ready, you start.
I'm ready. Just set now?
Yes.
Okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدي وحبيبي ونور قلبي طب القلوب ودوائها وعافية الأبدان وشفائها ونور الأبصار وضيائها أبي القاسم محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. صلى الله عليك يا رسول الله. صلى الله عليك يا نبي الله، يا رحمة الله الواسعة ويا باب نجاة الأمم. يا ليتنا كنا فنفوز فوزا عظيما. قال الله العلي العظيم في كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ألم نشرح لك صدرك ووضعنا عنك وزرك الذي أنقض ظهرك ورفعنا لك ذكرك فإن مع العسر يسرا، إن مع العسر يسرا، فإذا فرغت فانصب وإلى ربك فارغب. صدق الله العلي العظيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. My dear brothers and dear sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. عظم الله أجورنا وأجوركم. May the Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant you the great reward for the death anniversary of our dear Prophet. And I would like to also offer my condolences to Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam at large, and especially the Imam of our time, Al-Imam Sahib al-Asri wal-Zaman, روحي وأرواح العالمين له الفداء. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant him the great reward for the death anniversary of his grandfather, and also the martyrdom anniversary of his grandfather, Al-Imam Al-Hassan alayhi salam. And also I'm offering my condolences to the Muslim Ummah at large, and also especially the Mu'mineen and Mu'minat in Phoenix. And I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He grant all of you the shafa'ah of the Holy Prophet and Imam Al-Hassan alayhi salam. Tonight, as you know, is a great night in Islamic history because of the two important Islamic personalities who died or martyred on this occasion. And tonight, we would like to combine both the life of the Prophet and his grandson, Al-Imam Al-Hassan alayhi salam, who both died on this great night. But firstly, we will start with the Holy Prophet. Tonight, as you know, my dear brothers and sisters, I would like to focus when it comes to Rasulullah through the Holy Quran and see how does the Quran describe this great man. As you know, no matter how much we try, no matter how much we strive to get to know the Holy Prophet as he deserves, we are not able to do that. And this is not because I'm saying, it's because he himself said so. When he was talking to Imam Ali alayhi salam, where he says, Ya Ali ma arafani haqqal ma'arifa illa Allah wa ant. So Ya Ali, nobody is able to recognize me the way I deserve to be recognized except Allah, my creator, and you, Ali alayhi salam. So if no one can recognize Rasulullah the way he deserves, the way he's supposed to be recognized except Allah, then our best shot to know him is to go through the Quran. For that matter, tonight we wanted to recognize Rasulullah through the surah called Surah Al-Sharah or Surah Al-Inshirah. This surah is one of the surahs that describes the relationship of the Prophet with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This surah, when you look in the Quran, and some surahs is called Surah Al-Sharah, and some surah is called Surah Al-Inshirah. This surah was revealed upon the Prophet to give him the best to console the Prophet in his heart for the difficulty that the Prophet was going through. And by the way, as you know, in the Quran, there are 3 surahs known, the surah that speaks to the Prophet only, and Allah, nobody else. The first surah that speaks to Rasulullah and nobody else is the surah known as Surah Al-Inshirah. And by the way, our scholars in fiqh, they said this surah and the second surah are considered one surah together, which is Surah Al-Duha. Now this surah, Surah Al-Duha and Surah Al-Inshirah, they are considered one surah that even in Salat, when you read one of them, you have to read the other one to complete a surah in your Salat. Which means, if by any chance in my Salat I read Surah Al-Duha, I will not be considered reading a full surah until I read Surah Al-Inshirah. Alam nashrah laka sadrak. Now, if by any chance I read Surah Al-Inshirah first, I have to read Surah Al-Duha afterwards to be considered one surah in my salah. Now, there are 4 of these surah in the Quran, which are known to be one surah, each one of these 2. Now, the other 2 surahs are known as Surah Al-Fil and Surah Al-Quraysh. The same rule applies to these 2 surahs, that if by any chance in your salah you read Surah Al-Fil, you have to read Surah Al-Quraysh to become or consider one surah. And the way you also, if you read Surah Al-Quraysh first, you have to read Surah Al-Fil to complete that surah. Now, these surahs, both of them are known as Surah Makkiyah. They both were revealed in Mecca. However, this surah comes very handy when the Prophet was going through a difficult time. And this surah is to remind all of us that when the life takes you low, remember Rasulullah. As great human being, as the chosen prophet, he had a downside of his life. There was a time he was very low level of life. There was a time things were very difficult. And the Prophet was able to pull them together with the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So which means when your life goes down, at some point, things becomes very tough, things become very difficult. Remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And remember Rasulullah during those days to make your life a little easier. So the surah was revealed upon the Prophet when things was very difficult with the people of Mecca. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala called the Prophet in this surah saying, Ya Rasulallah, alam nashrah laka sadrak. One important lesson, my dear brothers and sisters, that when life takes you to the lowest of life that you can ever be, one of the way to get out of it and make things easy is to learn to look at the positive of your life at that time. Never look at the negative all the time. One of the things that causes a sorrow and disperse and cause people to go very low of their life, sometimes we fail to look at some of the positive in life. No matter how life becomes difficult, there is 1 or 2 of good that can bring you and remind you and give you some peace of mind. And that is what this surah is about. Now, you look in your life, I'm missing 1 or 2 or 3. I lost somebody dear to me. I lost a job. I lost a child. I lost a child. I lost a husband. I lost a wife. Whatever it may be. Look at some of the positive in your life, and it will help to bring you up. And that is what this surah is about. When Rasulullah was down, Allah said to me, Ya Rasulullah, look at the positive to boost your energy, to bring you to your level that you're supposed to be. So the first thing Allah reminded Rasulullah, Alam nashrah laka sadrak. Ya Rasulullah, did we expand your heart? That's the first blessing to remember, Ya Rasulullah. No matter what difficulties you're going through, no matter how much life is so tough, remember these first blessings. There are many people out there who Allah did not expand their heart. Not only just ordinary people, even Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about Musa. When Allah wanted to send Musa to Fir'aun, the first thing Musa asked Allah, Rabbi shrah li sadri. Ya Allah, you're sending me to a man known as Fir'aun, the tyrant who has no mercy. Ya Allah, I need your help. What help do you need? He said, expand my heart so that I can swallow all the difficulties that I will go through with Fir'aun. Ya Allah, I can't go and face him. I can't deal with this man. I need your support. And Allah says, I do that for you, Ya Musa. When he asked Allah, Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri وَاحْلُلْ عُقْدَةً مِّن لِسَانِي يَفْقَهُ قَوْلِي. Musa has to ask Allah 4 things. Ishrah li sadri, that's 1. Yassir li amri, that's 2. Wahlul uqdatan min lisani, that's 3. And then he says the 4th one, Yassir li amri, wahlul uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. All of this request Allah gave to Musa, but he has to ask Allah first. Ya Rasulullah, you did not need to ask any of this. We did that because we know you deserve it. Now, what does it mean to expand somebody's heart? Now, expansion of heart doesn't mean Allah came and made his chest bigger. No, this is an expression. And what that means, we made you so patient that you can swallow all difficulties to become easy in front of you. It's not easy when you are placed at a time where you have to deal with the ignorant people. At the time of Rasulullah, a time which is called al-Jahiliyyah, where people were living in the lowest time of their life. And you, Rasulullah, the highest human being, you have to bring yourself to that lower level to be able to drag them out of it and train them and bring them out of that low. And doing so, you have to face so many challenges. Some of them will say bad words to you. Some of them will disrespect you. Some of them will turn away from you. Some of them will even hurt you. And you have to swallow that, Ya Rasulullah. So because of all of that, Ya Rasulullah, we expanded your heart. And just to the Quran, to understand what this is, you know, Prophet Nuh alayhi salam, he was sent to people also. Prophet Nuh alayhi salam, he faced so many difficulties during his time with his people. And one of the difficulties that he faced, when Nuh alayhi salam goes to his people to teach them, educate them, Quran says the way they treat Nuh, number 1, they cover their face, they don't want to see him. They cover their ears, they mock him. But Nuh alayhi salam, it got to the point he couldn't deal with it. He said, enough is enough. Then what did he say? At some point, he has to ask Allah to destroy the people. رَبِّ لَا تَذَرْهُمْ إِنَّكَ إِن تَذَرْهُمْ يُضِلُّوا عِبَادَكَ وَلَا يَلِدُوا إِلَّا فَاجِرًا كَفَارًا. Ya Rab, don't spare them. Ya Allah, destroy them. If you decide to leave them, they will only give birth to a corrupted children. That was Nuh alayhi salam. And remember, Nuh is one of the ulul azm, but he couldn't deal with these people at some point. But you come to Rasulullah, as difficult a time that he was, as difficult with his people, Rasulullah never asked Allah to destroy his people. As a matter of fact, it was a difficult time where people got physical with Rasulullah. When he went to Ta'if, and the people, instead of welcoming Rasulullah, they welcomed him with stones. The Prophet was bleeding. The Prophet get hurt. The Prophet sat next to a tree. As he was bleeding, Jibreel came. Ya Muhammad, Ya Rasulullah, what would you like Allah to do to these people? Destroy them, turn them upside down, kill them. Now look at the heart of Rasulullah. He looked at Jibreel and said, nothing, Ya Jibreel. As a matter of fact, I have a dua to make for them. What is the dua? He said, Ya Rabb, oh my Lord, ihdil qawm. Allah guide them. فَإِنَّهُمْ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. They don't know. What a heart Rasulullah carries in his heart, in his chest. What a man. And all of this come from where? From the Quran. Alam nashrah laka sadrak. Didn't we expand your heart? That's number 1. Number 2, not only that, people sometimes they come to Rasulullah and they behave wrong. They say things to hurt Rasulullah, but with his akhlaq and this heart, the Prophet deal with them very, very respectful man. You know, sometimes the Prophet will go to war with his companions. They receive the blessings of war, As they come home, the Prophet was distributing. Some of the Prophet was giving them based on what he knows they deserve. Some of them, they go and start complaining, bad mouthing the Prophet. But the Prophet wouldn't get mad at them. As a matter of fact, he make dua for them. As a matter of fact, he gave them to please them. And Quran comes in Surah At-Tawbah to say, وَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ إِذَا أُعْطُوا رَضُوا. Some of them, the hypocrite around the Prophet, when they give it, they are happy. When they are given less, they become unhappy. And the Prophet have to deal with all of this. That is the meaning of Alam Nashrah Laka Sadrak. Sometimes he has to deal with the ignorant ones, who when the Prophet say one thing, they will say three things. When the Prophet command to do something, they will say opposite of it. And he has to deal with them. And some of them are his uncles, like Abu Lahab. And the Prophet have to deal with it. The Prophet will go to the market to teach people and guide people. Abu Lahab will be hiding somewhere, watching the Prophet. As the Prophet was able to grasp the mind and the heart of people, immediately Abu Lahab will show up and look at the people and say, do you know this man? They say, no. They say, this is Muhammad. I know him. It's my brother's son. He is a liar. And the Prophet have to look and smile and walk away. That is the heart of Rasulullah. That's why the Prophet, Allah told him, Ya Rasulullah, he said, فَبِرَحْمَةٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ لِنْتَ لَهُمْ وَلَوْ كُنْتَ فَظًّا غَلِيظَ الْقَلْبِ لَانْفَضُّوا مِنْ حَوْلِكَ. You have a very soft heart, Ya Rasulullah. That's one of the blessings of Allah to Rasulullah. Allah said, not only that, أَلَمْ نَشْرَحَ لَكَ صَدْرَكَ وَوَضَعْنَا أَنْكَ وِزْرَكَ. And we took the burden that was on your shoulder. What was the burden that on your shoulder, Ya Rasulullah? The burden that on your shoulder is so much, Ya Rasulullah. The burden is to guide mankind from darkness to the lightness. You cannot do that without the help of Allah. That difficulty that Allah put on your shoulder to guide and lead, it requires so much. Allah said, we have to come in to help you by sending Quran, by sending the Ahlul Bayt, so that when you are not there, they're there to continue your mission. وَوَضَعْنَا عَنْكَ وِزْرَكَ. Ya Rasulullah, we took that burden where you have to carry all of it. We put on others like Imam Ali to help you, because this task is not easy. Now go back into the Quran. Musa alayhi salam, when Allah told him, go to Pharaoh, innahu tagha, the first thing he says, Rabbi ja'alli waziran. Ya Allah, I need wazir, a helper. And not only I know the one that can help me. Who? Harun akhi, ushdud bihi azri, kay nusabbihaka kathiran wa nadhkuraka kathiran. Ya Rabbi, I need help. I can't do it alone. I need someone. I need my brother. And not only I need him for a moral support, I need him because he's more eloquent. He can speak. People can understand him better. And Allah told him, Ya Musa, sanashuddu bi'adudika bi'akhik. We will support you with your brother, Harun alayhi salam, to make it easier for you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Ya Rasulullah, we know the task is so heavy, so we are not going to let you to do it by yourself. We have Aliyun Amirul Mu'mineen to lift the burden of your shoulder, to make it easier for you. And that's what you see when Rasulullah was going to Hijrah from Mecca to Medina to protect the Rasulullah. Imam Ali have to take some of the burden, to sleep on his bed, to ease the task. Not only that, when he left to Medina, the people's trust they give to Rasulullah, somebody have to stay there and take care of that task. And that was Imam Ali to do that. And not only that, when the war comes, that the Prophet have to be in front line, he needs somebody to support Imam Ali is his support. وَوَضَعْنَا أَنْكَ وِزْرَكَ. We lifted that burden on your shoulder. With whom? With your brother Amirul Mu'minin. Then he says, not only that, Ya Rasulullah, on top of that, وَرَفَعْنَا لَكَ ذِكْرَكَ. And we raised your memory. What a beautiful description about Rasulullah. How did Allah raise his memory? Now, one thing you have to understand, there have been many prophets. We believe there is 124,000 prophets. Those prophets, they came, they lived, and they died. Some of them, we don't even know their names. Some of them, we know their names, but their books are disappeared. Some of them, we know their names. We don't have much story about them. Their memory is gone. But Ya Rasulullah, we made sure that your memory is forever. There will never be a time you will not be remembered. There will never come a time where you are not known or remembered by anyone. That memory is got to be kept. And that is why Zainab Salamullahi alayha, when she was in the castle of Yazid, she made this reference. Isa ya Yazid, isa asa'ayak wakid kaidak, fa wallahi la tamhu dhikrana. Ya Yazid, fakid kaidak, plot as you wish, and do whatever you wish. But one thing let me tell you, Ya Yazid, la tamhu dhikrana. You cannot erase our memory that Allah gave it to us. Because one thing you have to remember, that Yazid and Bani Umayyah, one of the mission that they were working on and they wanted to achieve is to make sure that Islam is nothing but name, and Quran is nothing but pages, and Ahlul Bayt is nothing but just words. That was the mission. But one thing they're missing, they don't understand is what? Is Allah already promised to make sure that the memory of Rasulullah and his Ahlul Bayt will never erased by anyone. No one can erase that. It's a gift from divine, from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the proof of it, it says, وَرَفَعْنَا لَكَ ذِكْرًا. That memory is kept and will be kept also till the day of Qiyamah. How did Allah kept this memory of Rasulullah? Allah kept the memory of Rasulullah in many ways. Number one, Allah made sure that every time Allah is mentioned, Muhammad must be mentioned next to him. Whenever you hear adhan, ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, what will be the next thing you have to say? Wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. You cannot call adhan without mentioning the name of Rasulullah in that adhan. It's impossible. That is must. That anytime in adhan or iqamah, you mention the name of Allah, the next is the name of Rasulullah. Not only that, even in your salat, for your salat to become accepted and correct, you must mention the name of Rasulullah. When you sit in your prayer and you say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah, is that enough? No, no, no. You have to add wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. That is the memory that Allah kept for Rasulullah. Not only that, when somebody wants to become a Muslim, I come and say, Ashhadu Allah ilaha illallah. Would that be enough to make you a Muslim? La wallah. I said the name of Allah. I believe in the God. I said the name of Allah, but it's not enough until you add wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. That is the memory of Rasulullah that Allah kept. Not only that, Allah said to you, وَرَفَعْنَا لَكَ ذِكْرَكَ Ya Muhammad. there will never be a time where they say, oh, they forgot about you. You go to the Quran in Surah An-Nisa, Allah tells Rasulullah, he said, وَرُسُلًا قَدْ قَصَصْنَاهُمْ عَلَيْكَ. Ya Muhammad, there are prophets, we told you about them. وَرُسُلًا لَمْ نَقْصُصْهُمْ عَلَيْكَ. But there are many of them we didn't tell you about them. Their memory is gone. They're forgotten. They're there, but they're done. Right? But would a time come where you will be forgotten? Would there be a time where you will not be remembered at some point? Never. وَرَفَعْنَا لَكَ ذِكْرَكَ. Not only that, Ya Rasulullah, every prophet that comes, we send him a miracle. Some of those miracles, most of them are gone. Today, they're just a story. Today, we hear in the Quran, Allah gave Prophet Musa a stick, which was his miracle. Today, where is that stick of Musa alayhi salam? It's a story we hear, but it doesn't exist. We hear Allah tells you about Musa. We hear about Ibrahim. Allah gave him books. And it's called Suhuf. Today, ask anyone, can you find that book anywhere at some point to call the book of Ibrahim? No. It used to be the miracle of Ibrahim, but it's nowhere to be found. We heard in the Quran, Yahya was given a miracle. Ya Yahya, khudh al-kitaba biqawwa wa ataynahu al-hukma sabiyya. Allah said, we give Yahya a book. Today, ask anyone, where's the book of Yahya? It's a miracle Allah gave him. But Ya Rasulullah, we gave you a book known as miracle, and that miracle, there will never be a time it doesn't exist. And what is the miracle of Rasulullah? Al-Quran, where Allah says, Inna nahnu nazzalna dhikr wa inna lahu lahafidun. Ya Muhammad, Ya Rasulullah, we gave you a miracle. That miracle that you brought, there will never be a time it's not there. Not only it will never be a time it's never going to be there, it's not a book that somebody can play with. We gave a book to many prophets too. We gave Torah to Musa. We gave Bible to Isa alayhim as-salam. Do they exist? Yes, they do. But are they the same thing the way I sent it down? No. What happened? They were temperament with. They were changed. It's no longer as it was revealed. But the book that we're giving you as your miracle, no one can touch it. No one can even match it. No one can even play with it. Where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, لا يأتيه الباطل من بين يديه ولا من خلفه تنزيل من رب العالمين. No falsehood can come in front of it. No falsehood can come behind the book of Allah. No falsehood can come anywhere to it. And Allah said, it's my revelation. And I will be the one to protect that book. And that book, anytime they pick it up, they read it, they remember this is of a miracle Allah sent through Muhammad. And that memory will be protected till the day of Qiyamah. That is one of the blessings that Allah blessed Rasulullah. وَرَفَعْنَا لَكَ ذِكْرَكَ. Not only that, Ya Rasulullah, this book and miracle that we gave you, one of the miracles is Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam. And they too will stay till the day of Qiyamah. Anytime they remember them, they remember you. How many people live and die, and today they are nowhere to be remembered. Today, any one of you, any one of us today, we know our fathers. You know your grandpa. Some of us, we know our grandfathers, right? Some of us are lucky to know even our second grandparents, right? But can any one of you even remember or know your grandfather 10 generations from now? Nobody. Now, if you know 10, can you remember 20 of them? No, you can't. It's gone. But you know they existed. You know they lived. But can you remember them today? No, you can't. How many years has passed since Rasulullah lived? And because of his grandchildren, we still remember the Prophet and will continue to remember him till the day of Qiyamah. That is the meaning of وَرَفَعْنَا لَكَ ذِكْرَكَ. Ya Rasulullah, this memory that we give you, nothing can ever come to erase that. Not only that, there are some things that was recorded in the history about you and will never be erased. One of those miracles that is being recorded and written is about your life. That life of Rasulullah that is mentioned in Quran in the history is still mentioned on the mimbars every year. You open the Quran, the memory of the Prophet is there. It will never be erased. And that is one of the blessings that Allah gives to Rasulullah. Then the ayah didn't stop there. At the end, Allah says, Ya Rasulullah, let me tell you one thing. And that is, فَإِنَّ مَعَ الْأُسْرِ يُسْرًا. This is one of the lessons for all of us, brothers and sisters. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Inna ma'al usri, Ya Rasulullah, Ya Muhammad, listen. Life always comes with two things. One is difficulty. It's the part of the sunnah of this life. Things never stayed the same for anybody forever. Life has ups and downs. But when life takes you to the down, right? Allah said, remember, it doesn't go down just because it's down. It always comes with the relief. They're together. In ma'a, in Arabic, ma'a means together. It's not difficulties comes, the relief comes after difficulty. No, Allah said they're together. Ma'al us. Amazing. Whenever you go into difficulty, in challenges, remember, the next to that challenge, there is a relief. There is ease next to it. Inna ma'al usri yusra. Allah said, in case you wonder, I am guarantee you. The next ayah, inna ma'al usri, is called ta'keed, to emphasize on the first one, that yes, indeed. Ya Rasulullah, every difficulty comes with relief. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala never created something without creating the opposite of it. When Allah created existence, He created non-existence. When Allah created poorness, Allah created richness. Allah created life, He created death. He created being poor, He created richness. He created heaven, He created lacking. Everything Allah created perfect. Difficulty, the opposite of it is what? Is ease, and they're together. Then Allah gives Rasulullah the last important message, and He says, فَإِذَا فَرَغْتَ فَانْصَبْ. When you're done with your duties, responsibilities, your work, your job, anything that is your responsibility to do, after you finish, Allah says, فَانْصَبْ. Stand still. And when you stand still, what should you do? He said, وَإِلَىٰ رَبِّكَ فَارْغَبْ. And ask from your Lord. And this is to also take us to another level. That one of the best equipment Allah put in your hand to make things easy in your life is dua. Never underestimate or underrate the power of dua. Al-Imam Ali alayhi salam, in dua, when he reminds you, he says, the only weapon that you have in this world, the only tool that you have is dua. That is, اغفر لمن لا يملك إلا الدعاء. Ya Allah, forgive your servant who has nothing in this life other than dua, other than to be humble in front of him. He said in one of the hadiths, it says, Silahul mu'min ad-du'a. The tool of a mu'min, the weapon that he has is nothing but dua. When things are difficult, remember dua. And this is the example of Rasulullah that Allah is talking about him. Now, the last, not the least, there are many things to talk about this great man. Al-Rasul al-A'zam was known with many things. Now, the second one who knows Rasulullah, as we promised in the beginning, we're going to focus on those who know the Prophet. One is Quran, and that's one. Two, Imam Ali alayhi salam. Imam Ali, as he described Rasulullah, he said, if you want to know who the man is, he said, Kana Rasulullah fina ka ahadina. Imam Ali said, I haven't seen anyone as humble, as down to earth like Rasulullah. How humble was he? He said, Rasulullah, his humbleness have reached to the point when he is among us, it's like one of us. Nobody can tell the difference between him and others. Today, when you go to any company that you can pick, right? As you walk in, can you tell the difference between boss, who is running, who's the manager, versus the worker there? Of course you can tell. Except Rasulullah. When you walk and you see him and his companions, you cannot tell the difference. The way he dressed is the same like his any other companion. The way he sit is like any other companion. The way he interact is like anybody else. And that is one of the lessons we can learn from Rasul. Today, one of the things that mankind is facing is arrogant. When I have money, a lot of money that I get, I'll become arrogant. I become disrespected. I don't respect my mom. No respect for my father. Why? Because I make more money than them. And Quran says, "Inna al-insana la yatgha an ra'ahu istaghna." Human being by nature will become arrogant when they feel they are now self-sufficient. I got a better job. I have a better house. I have a better car. I have a better clothes. I have a better money in account. All of this is a source of arrogance. But don't let that take you to that level. Learn from Rasulullah to be humble and put yourself down like your Rasul. That's your example. That's your hero. That's your example in life. That's your role model. That is Rasulullah. His humbleness have reached to the point where anyone he meets, he is the first person to say salam. Nobody ever met Rasulullah and was first to say salam to Rasulullah. Whether it's a boy, a young or adult, whether it's a rich or poor, whether it's an Arab or non-Arab. That was the akhlaq of Rasulullah. And today we need that akhlaq. We need that tool to bring people to Islam through our good character. And that is what Rasulullah is all about. Now come to next to his grandson, Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam. Another great hero. Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam is unique in many ways. The first grandson to the Prophet. Prior to him, there was no grandson that the Prophet had. And Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam was the first Imam, first person to be born from two ma'asum. Nobody prior to that ever been born by two ma'asum. Rasulullah was born, he is ma'asum, but his father was not ma'asum. His mother was not ma'asum. Imam Ali is ma'asum. His father was not ma'asum, nor his mother was not ma'asum. But Fatima al-Zahra also, she was born, her father is ma'asum, but her mother was not ma'asum. Who was the first person to be born and his mother is ma'asuma, is infallible, the father is infallible? That was Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam. Imam al-Hasan was born at the time of Rasulullah, where he lived with his grandfather Rasulullah, and the bond and the love was more than anyone could imagine. Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam, when he was born, he lived with his grandfather and he was very close to his grandfather. to the point when Rasulullah is in Masjid and Nabawi, he's giving khutbah. When Imam al-Hassan walks in, Rasulullah will cut his khutbah and go all the way down and pick Imam al-Hassan and take him with him to the mimbar, sits him on his lap, and he looked at Imam al-Hassan and he says, Allahumma shahad, oh Allah, bear witness, anni uhibbul Hassan, I love Hassan. And some narration say, Ya Allah, inni uhibbul Hassan, I love Hassan, I love his mother, I love his father too. Oh Allah, whoever happened to love his father and his mother and him, Allah love him too. That is Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam. Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam, when the Prophet used to pray, Imam al-Hassan will jump on the back of the Prophet. He will sit on the back of the Prophet. When Rasulullah is in sujood, Imam al-Hassan will sit on the neck of Rasulullah. And Rasulullah will stay as long as Imam al-Hassan is sitting there. There is one important message here, brothers and sisters. You know, as sujood, the prostration is for Allah. But prolonging the sujood till Hassan goes off of the neck of Rasulullah, that is for honor of Imam al-Hassan. For the Prophet. Now, the Prophet didn't even do this with his children, just in closed door. Sometimes he takes it way outside the public. Imam al-Hassan will ride on the back of Rasulullah. In public, people see him. This is Rasulullah. And this is his grandson. They ride it on his back. People will see and say, Ni'mal Raqib, Ni'mal Markub. What a great ride, Ya Rasulullah. That your children, your grandchildren are riding you. What an honor for them. Then the Prophet will turn and say, Wa Ni'mal Raqib too. They are honored to be riding me. I am also honored to have them to ride on my back. That is Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam. And many times during the lifetime of Rasulullah, Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam, many verses was revealed regarding Imam al-Hassan and Ahlul Bayt. One of them is Ayat al-Tathir. When the Prophet came to the house of Zahra, salamullahi alayha, and he said, I'm feeling weakness, cover me with the blanket from Yemen. When the Prophet was covered, guess who was the first one to walk in? Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam. As he walked into the house and he said, Assalamu alayki ya ummah, peace be upon you, my mother. She responded, Wa alayka assalam ya waladi. Imam al-Hassan said, Inni ashummu ra'ihatan ka'annaha ra'ihatu jaddi Rasulullah. I smell fragrance like the fragrance of my grandfather. Fatima Zahra said, pointed it to the cloak, say, yes, your grandfather is under the blanket. Imam al-Hassan come closer. Assalamu alayka ya jadda, peace be upon you, my grandfather. Rasulullah responds. But the great lesson is here. Rasulullah doesn't just respond to the salam. He then tells us the title of Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam. What is the title? Wa alayka salam ya waladi. Allahu Akbar. He said, my son. My son. He ascribed Hassan to him. Not only that, وَثَمَرَةَ فُعَادِي, the fruit of my heart. And then he says, وَيَا صَاحِبَ حَوْضِي. That's the title of Imam Hassan. The companion of my pond yawm al-qiyamah. There is a pond Allah promised Rasulullah, and that pond, someone is in charge of it. Who is that? Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam. That ayat al-Tathir, إِنَّمَا يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ لِيُذْهِبَ عَنْكُمُ الرِّجْسَ أَهْلَ الْبَيْتِ, was revealed on Imam al-Hassan and his father and his mother and his brother al-Hussein alayhi salam. Not only that, another ayah called Ayat al-Mubahala. When the Christians of Najran came to debate with Rasulullah and they lost that debate. And Allah wanted to show them the miracle of Rasulullah. Who were there that Allah used to show the greatness and the truth of Islam? Nothing but Ahlul Bayt. One of them is Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam. When the ayah was revealed, فَمَنْ حَاجَّكَ فِيهِ مِنْ بَعْدِ مَا جَاءَكَ مِنَ الْعِلْمِ فَقُلْ تَعَالَوْا نَدْعُ أَبْنَاءَنَا وَأَبْنَاءَكُمْ وَنِسَاءَنَا وَنِسَاءَكُمْ وَأَنفُسَنَا وَأَنفُسَكُمْ ثُمَّ نَبْتَهِلْ فَنَجْعَلْ لَعْنَةَ اللَّهِ عَلَى الْكَاذِبِينَ. Check all the tafasir. Imam al-Hasan was one of the abna'ana that Rasulullah brought to save Islam and to show the truth not of Islam. But what happened to these great personalities? After Hajjatul Wada', Rasulullah stopped the people in Hajj after they got to a place called Ghadir Khum. And he said to the people, Inni ushiku an uda'a fa ujib. I will be called very soon and I have to respond to the call. What is that call, Ya Rasulullah? He said, I will be dying soon. How soon, Ya Rasulullah? In less than 3 months. I will not longer be here. Surely enough, after the month of the Hajj, Muharram comes, Zafar comes. On the 28th of Zafar, Rasulullah was no more in this universe. Al-Imam Ali alayhi salam tells us how the whole thing started with Rasulullah's death. He says, Rasulullah, during the last days of Zafar, Rasulullah started to complain the headache. The headache becomes very severe for Rasulullah. Rasulullah started to tie his turban differently than usual. He used to tie it normal, but then when the headache became so severe, Rasulullah would tie it so tight to his head, so maybe that will soften his pains. But when the things became even worse, Zahra salamullahi alayha, she was next to Rasulullah. And she was looking, the Prophet was turning left and right from the pain and agony that he was going through. Zahra looked at her father and he says, Ya Aba ya'azzu ala bintik, is so dear on your daughter to see you going through that pain and nothing she can do for you. Rasulullah, as he was screaming on that for that pain, Zahra was the one who will put her hand on the chest of Rasulullah and the head of Rasulullah to calm and ease that. And Fatima salamullahi alayha, she kept crying after crying, crying after crying, until Rasulullah called her and he said something in her ear. Zahra salamullahi alayha, she busted into tears and cried. And after that, he called her one more time and he said something in her ears and she started smiling. They asked Zahra, why were you crying for the first time when Rasulullah called and you started to smile the second time? She said, yes, when Rasulullah called the first time, he told me, Ya Zahra, this is the last night with your father. You will never see the face of your father after tonight. Your father is going to depart from this universe. And you know the bond between Rasulullah and Zahra salamullahi alayha. She was like a mother to Rasulullah. And that's why we call her Ummu Abiha. And now Rasulullah is about to depart from this universe. And that was the reason why I'm crying. What was the reason of your smile? He said, Anti sari'atul lihaq bi. You will be the next one to meet me in Barzakh, Ya Fatima. And surely enough, 6 months later, after the death of the Prophet, Zahra was no more in this universe. Rasulullah, before he died, he called Imam Ali, say, Ya Ali, after I pass, I want you to take care of my ghusl. I want you to take care of my kafan. I want you to take care of my salat. And after that, Ya Rasulullah, you lead my janazah to where I am supposed to be buried. Where will you be buried, Ya Rasulullah? I will be buried in my house, which is today known as Masjid al-Nabawi. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam demise and died on the 20th of Safar. But Rasulullah, what happened to your grandson Al-Hasan alayhi salam? What happened to Hasan alayhi salam? Muawiyah la'natullahi alayhi, he called the wife of Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam, and he said to her, Ya Ja'da, I want you to kill your husband by taking this poison and placing in the food for your husband. And there is a reward of money for you. And also you will be marrying my son Yazid. Surely enough, this woman, the cursed one, she took that poison and she placed in the food of Imam al-Hasan. The narrator said that poison they will not even give to the worst of animals of that time. But that was the food, that was the poison they gave to Imam al-Hasan. Imam al-Hasan started to throw blood after blood, blood after blood. Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, he said, I was with my brother Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam, and I saw the situation was getting worse and worse, to the point where I brought a bowl for my brother. He will throw up a blood and it will fill that bowl, and I will throw it out, and then after that I will find my brother has thrown up also blood after blood. I got to the point where I would not let Zainab salamullahi alayha to see her brother because of the situation of her brother Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam. The situation got to the point where Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam, he said to his brother, my brother, I will not survive from this tragedy. You will be the next Imam after me, but I want to tell you what to do after my martyrdom. He said, the first thing I want you to do is to make sure that you wash my body after my death. I want you to make sure that you shroud my body after my death. I want you also, Ya Hussein, to make sure that you pray on my body. I want you to make sure, Ya Hussein, to be the one to put me in my grave. But I want you to bury me next to my grandfather, Rasulullah. Ya Hassan, did you get all these wishes? Yes, you got to be washed by your brother Hussein. You got to be shrouded by your brother Hussein. You got to be prayed on after with your brother Hussein. But did you get the blessing to be buried next to your father and grandfather Rasulullah? La wallah, you didn't get that. The tragedy of Imam Hassan, not only he was murdered, he was martyred with poison. He was not given the right to be buried next to his grandfather as he wished. As Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam died, Imam al-Hussein brought his coffin to bury him next to his grandfather as he wished, but they wouldn't let Imam al-Hasan to be buried next to his grandfather. Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam tried all his best and possible to bury him as he wished, but they would not let that happen. And instead, they started to shoot at the coffin of Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam. Imam Hussein alayhi salam tried as much as possible. Finally, Imam al-Hussein find out that I cannot bury my brother next to his grandfather. He then took the coffin of his brother. He brought it to al-Baqi. He buried his brother in the Baqi, where the brother Imam al-Hasan was buried. But I wish the brother was buried in Baqi, and the shrine was built on. As they built the shrine on the grave of Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam, those unjust people of Saudi Arabia, they destroy and they demolish the shrine of Imam al-Hasan. Today, as you walk in Baqi, you can see the shrine of Imam al-Hasan or the grave of Imam al-Hasan, crying for the injustice that happened to Imam al-Hasan. As the grave is saying, Ya Hasan, you were murdered unjust, and your shrine also have to experience injustice from those enemies of Islam. But the saddest part is Imam al-Hasan was talking about his burial. He's talking about how to be buried. But how about your brother Hussein? When he was martyred on the land of Karbala, did Imam al-Hussein got to be shrouded? Did Imam al-Hussein got to be buried like you did? Did Imam al-Hussein got somebody to wash his body? None of that happened. Zainab salamullahi alayha, she told us about what happened to Imam al-Hasan and Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. She said to Rasulullah, Ya Rasulullah, هذا حسين بالعراء مسلوب الإمامة والردى. Ya Rasulullah, this is your grandson, Imam al-Hussein, who got the honor to be on your chest, on your back as well. Today he was left on the train, on the plain of Karbala, bila imama, without this turban as normal and usual. Waslub al-rida, without left, they didn't even leave the Kaaba on the body of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. That is how they left Abu Abdullah on the day of Ashura. Aywa imama wa hasana. رحم الله من نادى ورسولا وحسنا. إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلب والعاقبة للمتقين. إلهنا نسألك وندعوك بأحب الخلق إليك بمحمد وعلي وفاطمة والحسن والحسين. Ya Allah, we ask you for the great of these personalities, Rasulullah and Imam al-Hasan, Ya Allah. We ask you to make the difficulties of all mu'mineen and mu'minat, make it easier for them, Ya Rabbal Alameen. Ya Allah, we have sick mu'mineen and mu'minat in community, outside community. Ya Allah, make it easy for all of them, Ya Rabbal Alameen. We have troubles and trials and difficulties, Ya Allah, that every one of us is going through. Ya Allah, for the sake of these tears, for the sake of these personalities, Rasulullah and Imam al-Hasan, Ya Allah, make it easy for them, Ya Rabbal Alameen. For your marhumin and all your marhumat, rahimallahu man yaqra al-Fatihata ma'a as-salawat. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. صدق الله العلي العظيم. يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين.
Assalamu alaikum Maulana.
عليكم السلام ورحمة الله.
MashaAllah, thank you so much. I'm walking outside. Your lecture is still running
Okay.
in the room.
Inshallah.
Jazakallah. Thank you so much. May Allah bless you.
Thank you. Thank you. Inshallah. Khuda Hafiz.
Khuda Hafiz.